Hey, it's DeagleBeagle here. I'm gonna go over Roaring Moon for Series 2. So there's a couple different ways on how to use it. I'm just gonna show three ways, even though there's more, but these are probably the main ways it's gonna be used is probably most commonly gonna be a set like this with Booster Energy, Acrobatics, Crunch, Dragon Claw, Tailwind, with just for now just 252 252. You might want to change it later, but it's the fastest it can be and most offensive it can be. And acrobatics with booster energy is really good because you can Terra flying and it resists a lot of things that we're trying to super affect it, like fighting Pokemon, bug, not fairy. It's really just mostly fighting. But it does remove some of the other weaknesses too. Like you're not weak to dragon anymore. You're still weak to ice. But Roaring Moon, the problem with I have with it is it has so many weaknesses that it reminds me a lot of Hydreigon, where it's like people say it's good, but if you have to Terra with it almost every time, then I don't know if it is good or not. So I bet this is going to be the most overrated Pokemon in all of Series 2. Just like how Hydreigon is good, but I think it's probably the most overrated Pokemon of Series 1 because it has really bad defensive typing. Just like this thing. It's like when I was testing it, I could almost never get up a Tailwind with it. But if I used Terra Flying, I could. But I didn't want to always have to use a Terra type with it. But if you're fine doing that, then I guess this Pokemon's fine. But just keep that in mind that if you Terra with this, you can't Terra with something else. So on paper, this might look good, like, but then you can't Terra with something else. So if for example, if this thing's only good because it Terras, then it's not that good because then it means your other members of your team can't Terra to help against a disadvantage as much. Now, here's another set I thought of. You could use a bulkier one with like breaking swipe and really take advantage of that move. That move's really good. 60 power move that hits both foes and lowers their attack, and it gets stab. Outrage, maybe on another set I might use, but that's kind of a loose cannon, so maybe not. Um, oh, by the way, instead of crunch, you might even want throat chop. Let me see. So I think it's the same power. Throat chop. I think it stops hyper voice and a few other things. Sound moves. So what are all the sound moves? Bug buzz. Hyper voice from Sylveon. Those are very notable, especially considering how it's 4 times weak to Sylveon. So actually, I'd probably recommend going with throat chop. And you wouldn't even necessarily need Iron Hand if that was the case. And then what else? Perish Song. Yo, it's immune to Perish Song. So if you have Throat Chop, they can't beat you with Perish Song, like with whatever they're trying to use, Scream Tail or whatever. Torch Song, it counters too. Sing, which also counters like a Sing. I think people use a Sing Scream Tail, but I wouldn't use something like that with low accuracy. Now, what else do people use? Some of these moves aren't even in the game. Boom Burst, maybe. Overdrive, Toxicity. Roar, not really. People don't really use that. Snarl, they do use that, but it wouldn't matter for Roaring Moon. It would matter for its ally though. So actually, I'm gonna make all of these Throat Chop, even the Iron Head one, because a 20% chance to lower their defense is basically not much of a extra effect. I'd much rather prevent them from using sound moves for 2 turns. Iron Head, you might even want to change it if you had Throat Chop then but Iron Head is good to finish off the fairy Pokemon or whatever. But anyways, This one's a bulky one. It outspeeds and one-shots Garchomp with either Dragon Claw or Terra Blast with Fairy. And you have bulk with Citrus. Just like this one, obviously will outspeed a one-shot Garchomp. They could use Terra Ground or bulk or Sash or something though. But this one, if you know they're running Sash, you might want to just Breaking Swipe it. Lower its attack, hit its ally. Terra Fairy and Terra Flying are probably the best. I'd say Terra Fairy is better defensively though, because you have very few weaknesses after that, and you get rid of your psychic weak, or sorry, not psychic weakness, fighting weakness. You're not weak to you're not weak to bug, etc. So I mean, if they're trying to hit you with a dragon attack, it would be really good to counter that. Maybe steel would be okay, but I was thinking steel, but then I was thinking, well, what if they hit you with a fighting move? Then Terra Steel isn't going to help you defensively. So probably Farah and Flying are going to be the best and probably the most common, even though no one's using Farah yet. I'm just theory modding. A similar Pokemon like this, like King Ambit or whatever, or Baxcalibur sometimes run Fairy. And what else? You on this one, I thought of Loaded Dice because once I saw a Scale Shot, I'm like, that reminds me of Baxcalibur's Icicle Spear. So in this case, you would have a 125 power. Well, I believe it's not always 125. It's between 100 and 125 power that hits 4 or 5 times if you have loaded dice. I don't know why they don't just make it 5 times instead of 4 or 5. Maybe because they want to call it loaded dice. I don't know, but the problem with Scale Shot though is that it can miss. So if you don't want it to miss, then don't use it. And if you don't want it to lower your defense one stage, don't use it. But it does increase your speed after the last hit. So that would be pretty good because you could use loaded dice, use it sort of like a flame charge or trailblaze where you raise your speed and then you just keep hitting them. So I think that would be pretty good because almost nothing resists dragon except like fairy and steel, I believe, are the only ones. So if you can hit their ally that's not fairy or steel, then it would do pretty well. The problem with Scale Shot though would be if they had Rocky Helmet, especially like Amoonguss, which isn't weak to it. Loaded Dice, Icicle Spear doesn't have that problem because Amoonguss is normally weak to ice unless it uses a Terra. But I still think Scale Shot could be really good on average with loaded dice. It's worth trying out. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for the next one.